A startling issue is being posed in the brutal world of sports marketing today. How is the world number 2 being outsold by a young, up-and-coming star? Grand Slam victories can provide celebrity, but they don't always translate into respect in the corporate world. And the tennis community received a sharp reminder this week. It has nothing to do with rankings or forehands. In the sneaker game, it's about identification, power, and influence. Greetings from the channel once again. We're examining a subject today that has allegedly irritated one of the greatest names in the WTA. There are rumors that Aryna Sabalina, the second-ranked player in the world and a multiple Grand Slam champion, is at odds with Nike. The reason is the stark contrast between her goods performance and that of Alex, a teenage budding star who is still climbing the tour. The contrast is unbelievable. While Alex's limited edition Nike release sold out in less than 60 seconds, Sabalina's signature tournament sneakers can be seen on 50% clearance racks in US and European stores. We go back to the beginning to comprehend the impact. Nike revealed an Alex-related limited edition. The market was ready, even though casual fans continued to see her as a prospect. Her following base was ready thanks to her relatable story, social media activity, and Filipino pride. They purchased more than just footwear. They supported her journey. What ought to have been a straightforward drop turned into a worldwide event motivated by connection and identity. Meanwhile, Sabalina, a proven champion, found herself in a strange position. The success of In Court was not converting into domination in the market. In today's branding world, emotional connection can surpass performance, and storytelling frequently triumphs over awards. And Alex is currently a symbol of that change. Alex wasn't yet well known in Western tennis, despite receiving top-notch instruction at the Rafa Nadal Academy. She wasn't participating in the center court finals. Nike then uploaded her shoe to the internet. What came next was unbelievable. Not 60 seconds, not 10 minutes, not an hour. The stock vanished. Pages for checkout crashed. Supporters from Southeast Asia and the Philippines flooded internet retailers with the kind of intensity typically seen with significant streetwear discounts. This was more than a sellout. It was an indication. Alex is not just a sportsman. She's a force. Resellers listed her sneakers at 3 times the retail price at the same time. When pictures of Sabalina's merchandise languishing unsold at Nike stores appeared online, it was hard to ignore them. On outlet shelves, rows of the Nike Zoom GP Turbo, the exact model Sabalina worn during her most memorable championship moments, were gently arranged with bright red clearance tags applied to the boxes. It was more than a retail scenario. It appeared to be symbolic. It seemed to be a nonverbal message. On one side, Alex's equipment vanished like a precious gem. Conversely, Sabalina's trademark shoes started to show up in excess. It was uncomfortable because of the stark contrast. Insiders close to the trip claim that Sabalina is naturally extremely frustrated as a result. It's difficult not to feel sorry for her after reading her resume. She is one of the most formidable opponents in the sport today since she has successfully defended her Australian Open title, consistently advances far into the semi-finals and finals of the biggest competitions, and dominates with an explosive, high-intensity style. She ought to be at the top of the commercial race by all conventional standards of merit. Her items should be the ones that disappear in an instant. However, the reality that is emerging presents a different picture. Thus, the question becomes inevitable. Why is this taking place? Why does the global number 2 seem to be locked in the discount department while a teenage emerging star is making waves on the internet? We must go beyond rankings and examine the Nike machine's internal workings in order to provide an answer. Because there is no plot or partiality involved. It has to do with strategy. Nike uses a market logic-based, tiered inventory structure. The brand uses a mass distribution model for a world-class athlete such as Sabalina. They anticipate that she will continue to be highly visible over the entire calendar. She is a continuous fixture on television throughout the year, competing in tournaments and standing for dependability and presence. Nike consequently manufactures her iconic footwear on a large scale. Hundreds of thousands of pairs distributed worldwide. Across shopping malls, tennis specialty stores, and major retail chains. Although its broad availability guarantees consistent income, it also poses a risk. Eventually, the units end up in discount racks if even a small percentage of that supply doesn't sell right away. To put it another way, being the dependable superstar entails being approachable, and accessibility seldom results in urgency. Alex stands for the antithesis of scarcity. Nike realized early on that she had a particularly fervent fan base, especially in the Philippines, where strong athlete loyalty and emotional ties drive consumer behavior. They limited supplies rather than flooding the market. They purposefully created scarcity by releasing her sneakers in a strictly regulated limited quantity. The outcome was strong yet expected. The 1-minute sellout became the tale itself as a result of the collision between high demand and limited supply. More value was created by the story of immediate success than by months of consistent sales. There was more to this than just product sales. The goal was to create a moment. Sabalina uses consistency to move units. Alex uses exclusivity to create waves. While one produces short-term excitement, the other shows long-term steadiness. This is where the more profound change is evident. The formula for sports marketing was straightforward for many years. The market will follow if you win awards. Success at the checkout counter was directly correlated with success on the court. However, that formula has changed in the age of social media. Influence is no longer just determined by performance. These days, relatability, storytelling, and identity have equal, if not more, influence. These days, consumers are purchasing more than simply equipment. They are purchasing connections. They are making investments in emotionally compelling stories. Alex does more than just sell shoes. She stands for ambition, pride in one's culture, and a feeling of community. That a product becomes a symbol through emotional alignment. Additionally, symbols move more quickly in the current market than data ever could. Alex is more than just a performer. She stands for a country. When a Filipino admirer purchases her shoes, it's more than just a transaction. They're embracing a closer bond. It has to do with feeling like you belong. It has to do with pride. It has to do with identity. Instead of being functional, the thing becomes symbolic. They are purchasing more than just footwear. As a visible component of their worldwide image, they are investing in patriotism. Instead of being a business transaction, it becomes an emotional one. This type of attachment is strong, and in contemporary marketing, emotion frequently triumphs over accomplishment. Despite her power, Sabalina lives in a far more complex environment. She is from Belarus, a nation whose geopolitical ties unavoidably influence how the world views it. Beyond that, intensity, strength, and unadulterated anger are key to her personal brand. Characteristics that are dominant on the court don't always translate into appealing lifestyle choices. It's not always necessary to sell culture in order to win games. Nike seems to be having trouble turning her on-court dominance into off-court appeal. Additionally, enthusiasts are beginning to identify the holes. Where is her distinctive identity? The Sabalina Tiger lifestyle line is where? Where are the partnerships that combine fashion and performance? Fans can clearly see the difference between her circumstances and those of celebrities who receive fully tailored merchandise. Instead of wearing genuinely customized outfits, she frequently wears altered versions of common equipment. Additionally, the market starts to treat champions like regular products when they are promoted as such. History demonstrates the potential risk of this dynamic. Athletes relocate when they feel underappreciated in the marketplace. In order to pursue ownership and notoriety elsewhere, Roger Federer famously departed Nike. Similar changes have been made by other celebrities at large companies like Nike in an effort to improve their personal branding. You run the risk of being a part of a large system rather than a focal point unless you are at the absolute top. This might turn into leverage if stories of Sabalina's annoyance are true. A story is taking shape. While Sabalina's merchandise is on sale, Alex sells out right away. In discussions, that disparity is really noticeable. If changes aren't made, it becomes possible to look into other collaborations, and switching to a competitor company might drastically change the women's tennis apparel market overnight. Another factor at work is generational. Alex is a member of Generation Z, a digitally native, actively involved, and closely associated with the mobile-first culture. Rankings cannot match the impact of her social media presence. Direct access to a sizable youthful Asian market that international companies are keen to reach. In this way, Nike's strategy is a wager on the future. While Sabalina is seen as a member of the established guard despite her youth, Alex represents future development. The gap is already apparent on social media. Supporters publish confirmations and treat every release as a cultural victory as they rejoice over Alex's sellouts. Fans are spreading a straightforward message. Trophies can be rivaled by connections. And that concept is finding traction in the current market. Supporters contend that Nike hasn't done enough to highlight Sabalina's true outstanding qualities. They contend that her products would have the same level of demand if even a small portion of the hype-driven marketing expenditure spent for limited drops had gone toward her branding and storytelling. There is much more to this than just shoes. It is the point at which identity, culture, and generational influence crash with the brutal economics of contemporary sports marketing. Photos of Sabalina's cheap sneakers are currently being shared online by fans as proof of poor brand management. Additionally, it is hard to overlook the visual story. Just as much as in court highlights, red-tagged sale racks are influencing perception. In order to avoid losing one of its most valuable competitive advantages, how can Nike handle this? First of all, Sabalina is not a typical athlete. She needs a striking, unique identity, a visual representation of her combative, explosive playing style. She could be repositioned as a force on and off the court with a distinctive symbol, a signature style, and a shoe made as an extension of her playing rather than a generic performance model. Second, inventory strategy needs to change. Discount cycles are inevitable when retailers are overstocked with broadly accessible hues. Controlled scarcity, like limited championship editions, could change people's perceptions from availability to desirability and show that, in the right circumstances, she can also create immediate demand. However, Sabalina's biggest strength has not changed. Clearance racks cannot create a legacy as winning trophies can. However, she might also need to think like the CEO of her own personal brand in the current environment. Investigating different partnerships could become a strategic consideration if her value isn't being completely utilized inside the current structure.